Ever feel like the world of sales tax and VAT is this incredibly complex puzzle?
Yeah.
Especially when you layer on ever-changing regulations and just the speed of technology.
Oh, definitely. It makes you wonder, how do businesses actually keep all those ducks in a row behind the scenes?
That's a great question. Because what looks like, a simple tax line on your invoice,
Yeah.
often there's this really intricate web underneath it, legal requirements, the tech to manage it all.
Exactly. It's far from simple.
Well, that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into the history and evolution of a really critical piece of technology that helps companies navigate all this, the Vertex tax engine.
Ah, Vertex. Yeah, maybe not a household name for everyone, but for businesses wrestling with tax complexity, it's been vital.
Absolutely. Vertex has played such a significant role for, decades now. Understanding their journey really shines a light on the major shifts, both technological and regulatory, that have shaped, the whole enterprise tech landscape.
It really does. It's a microcosm of broader changes in enterprise IT and compliance.
And that's our mission for you, the learner. We want to give you a solid grasp of this crucial business function, but without getting totally bogged down in super technical details or dense tax jargon.
Yeah, cut through the noise a bit.
Exactly. We've got this fascinating document, Vertex Tax Engine Evolution History, and it covers over 40 years. I mean, think about that, from paper manuals right up to today's cloud native stuff.
That's quite a span. It really shows how dramatically this field has transformed.
For sure. So let's take a chronological walk through Vertex's journey, looking at how they evolved and, importantly, what forces were pushing those changes.
Sounds good. Where do we start? The very beginning.
Let's do it. Vertex kicks off in 1978, founded by Ray Westphal. Now, what was the big problem he was initially trying to solve? It wasn't software straight out of the gate, was it?
That's right. Back in the late 70s, businesses were growing fast, and that meant dealing with way more sales tax complexity. You had all these different states, counties, cities, each with their own rules.
A nightmare to track manually, I imagine.
Totally. The sheer number of jurisdictions and the nuances of their laws were just becoming overwhelming for companies.
So no easy online lookups or anything like that. How did Vertex first help?
Well, their first solution was honestly pretty basic by today's standards, but incredibly valuable then. They started by creating paper manuals.
Actual paper manuals.
Yep. Imagine these super detailed guides listing all the sales tax rates and rules for all those different places, physically delivered. It really highlights that the core need initially was just getting accurate information.
Wow. You can picture someone just buried under binders.
Yeah.
Shows how crucial that foundational data was. But obviously, they didn't stick with paper forever.
Oh, definitely not. They saw the potential of technology pretty early on. By the early 1980s, they were pioneers in moving to electronic delivery of those tax rules.
Okay, that's a big step up.
Huge. It meant information could be accessed faster, updated much more easily. I mean, think about the speed difference compared to printing and mailing binders.
Right, just practical efficiency. Fewer errors potentially too with faster updates.
Exactly. And it's interesting, that they built that deep expertise in tax content first before they really dove into building software.
That's a great point. Why do you think that was so important?
Well, I think establishing themselves as the go-to source for accurate tax information built a massive amount of trust and credibility. They really understood the domain inside and out before they tried to automate it. That foundation was critical.
Makes sense. Okay, so they have the content nailed down. What was the next logical step? When did the actual software for processing taxes come into play?
That followed fairly quickly, actually. By 1982, Vertex sold its first software designed specifically for processing transaction taxes. So moving from just providing the rules to actually calculating the tax.
And this is the mainframe era, right? Big iron dominating the enterprise.
Precisely. Mainframes were the workhorses for large organizations then, so it was natural for their early software to be built for those systems.
It's wild to think about those machines now.
Yeah.
So Ray Westphal, the founder, is credited with really pioneering corporate tax software in the late 80s. What was his key insight there?
I think he saw the writing on the wall for manual methods, things like spreadsheets. He recognized that as businesses got bigger and tax laws got even more complex, automation wasn't just nice to have, it was becoming essential. Manual was just too slow, too error prone, not scalable.
So Vertex got in early on, automating this really critical, complex function. That must have given them a significant edge.
Oh, definitely. It let them build a customer base among big companies early on, and crucially, gain tons of practical experience with really thorny tax challenges way before a client server or web tech was even a thing. That head start in understanding corporate tax needs was huge.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. We hit the mid 90s, early 2000s. The tech landscape is shifting. Mainframes are still kicking, but client server is rising fast. This brings us to the L series and Q series. Let's unpack the L series first. Described as the oldest version, mainframe focused.
Yep. The L series was basically their established solution, really tailored for those legacy mainframe environments. Think of it as the reliable workhorse for companies still heavily invested in that traditional infrastructure.
Gotcha. And a key piece of tech inside it was the geocoder. Sounds important. What did that do exactly?
The geocoder was a really smart piece of proprietary tech. It went way beyond just using zip codes. It could actually pinpoint the specific taxing jurisdictions, state, county, and city level.
Because a single zip code can cross multiple tax boundaries, right? Especially in the US.
Exactly. You can have overlapping districts, different rates within one zip. Geocoder brought much higher accuracy by figuring out precisely which authorities got the tax revenue. That focus on jurisdiction accuracy became a real Vertex hallmark.
Made a real difference in getting the calculation right, I bet. And L series primarily tackled sales and use tax, SUT.
Correct. SUT automation was the main goal. But they also realized some industries had just, wow, crazy complex tax needs. So they developed a specialized version, the Vertex Communications Tax L series.
Communications tax. Why did that need its own version?
Oh, telecom taxes in the US and Canada are notoriously complicated. You've got this whole tangle of federal, state, local taxes, plus specific fees, surcharges on phone services, cable, that kind of thing. It needed its own dedicated logic.
So, like an early example of verticalization, tailoring the solution for a specific industry's pain point.
Precisely. Showed they understood that one size didn't fit all, even back then. Now, these L series systems, they had to talk to other systems, right?
Yeah, integration was key even then. L series was designed to connect with the main host systems. Companies used those early ERPs, billing systems running on mainframes, things like the IBM AS400. And it's kind of amazing. There are still third-party connectors out there, like KMH Systems L2O, specifically designed to help companies migrate off L series integrations onto newer platforms like O Series or Vertex Cloud, like a bridge across tech generations.
It really is. Shows how long-lived some of these systems were. But, as technology raced towards client server and eventually the cloud, the L series naturally started getting phased out as companies modernized.
Which logically leads us to the Q series. This feels like that bridge, connecting the mainframe world to what came next. Designed for client server, but also dipping its toes into cloud.
Exactly. Q series was built for those client-server environments that were taking over in the 90s and early 2000s. But the really forward-thinking part was the deployment flexibility. It wasn't just on-premise. They offered a cloud-based SaaS or hosted option too.
That's pretty early for SaaS, wasn't it? Shows they were seeing that trend coming.
Definitely. And they had the Vertex Payroll Tax Q Series on demand, which was a very clear example of embracing that SaaS delivery model early. Software accessed over the web, less for the customer's IT team to manage directly.
So, flexible deployment. Did it still use that geocoder tech for accuracy?
Absolutely. Geocoder was still core, ensuring that same jurisdictional precision. And for the Payroll Tax Q Series, they added an optional address cleansing feature. What was that about?
That sounds like even finer tuning.
Yeah.
It used USPS data to validate employee addresses down to the ZIP+4 level, found specific political subdivision codes crucial in places like Pennsylvania, even identified townships and school districts.
Wow, that's granular.
Super granular. Really important for getting payroll tax withholding exactly right, especially at the local level where things can get very specific.
Makes sense. Payroll taxes are definitely tricky. Now, Q Series also brought in something called the Tax Decision Maker, or TDM. This sounds like it shifted some power.
It really did. This is kind of a key moment. TDM basically let the tax department configure their own business-specific rules, exceptions, overrides, without needing IT for every little change.
That's huge.
Yeah, they could set rules based on like the product, the customer type, where the sale happened. It freed them up from relying so heavily on IT for those kinds of tax logic adjustments.
Putting the control closer to the experts, that makes a lot of sense. And Q Series didn't just do SUT, right? It handled more tax types. It definitely expanded. It added consumer use tax, value added tax VAT, which is huge internationally payroll tax for the US and Canada, and an updated communications tax module. They even rolled out a dedicated returns module to help automate filing.
So a much broader functional footprint. And integration-wise, still playing nice with big ERPs.
Yep. Continued connections with systems like JD Edwards Enterprise One, Oracle Fusion HCM for payroll, mentions of SAP connectors too. And technically, it used standard database tools like ODBC and specific drivers to talk to different database platforms. Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, common in those client server setups, like universal translators for databases.
Got it. So Q Series was like more modern than L, more flexible, maybe not quite as complex or pricey as the later O Series, but offered robust automation for a wider range of companies.
Yeah, exactly. A really important stepping stone, supporting that shift away from mainframes, introducing cloud options, and empowering tax teams more directly.
Okay, so after Q Series bridged that gap, 2003 sees the launch of the O Series. This feels like a major architectural leap, really built for a more connected global world. What changed under the hood?
O Series was a fundamental shift. It moved to a web-oriented, service-based architecture using Java, XML, SAP, basically standardized ways for software to talk over the internet. The core engine, the transaction processing system, was separate, communicating via these web messages.
Decoupled, making integration easier.
Much easier, much more flexible. And a huge functional upgrade was Vertex Tax GIS. How did that improve on GeoCritter?
Tax GIS took precision to another level. GeoCoder got you to the city, right?
Yeah.
Tax GIS could identify jurisdictions down to the sub-city district level. Think special purpose districts transit, stadiums which often have unique taxes and boundaries that don't follow zip codes or city lines neatly.
Whoa, that's incredibly specific.
Super specific. Crucial for pinpoint accuracy, especially in the complex U.S. landscape.
You can see why that'd be vital. And what was the big picture vision for O Series within a company? The vision was this centralized Vertex enterprise platform, one system to manage transaction taxes globally, pull the tax logic out of all the different sales, billing, purchasing systems, and put it in one place.
For consistency.
Consistency, accuracy, single source of truth, easier maintenance, better visibility and control for the tax department. It really anticipated that modern need for a robust central tax engine that could handle global scale and local detail.
A more strategic, unified approach. Now, O Series has been around a while, evolving through versions. What were some highlights in V8 and V9?
Right. Version 8.0, probably around 2017-ish, had a strong focus on global VAT complexity. It expanded support for Latin America, Brazil's tricky DIFAL rules, Argentina's provinces, Colombia, added new European VAT features to Spanish VAT groups, specific date rules for places like Poland and Hungary, better reverse charge handling, and improvements in North America for exemption certificates plus technical tune-ups.
So really doubling down on international capabilities. Then version 9.0 in August 2019.
Another big wave. Major addition was integrated support for U.S. communication services tax, that super complex area covering wireless, VoIP, streaming, etc. Bringing that onto the main platform was significant.
Streamlining things.
Definitely. Also added better security with SAM-L oath support for single sign-on. Modernized the UI with HTML5, ditching Flash. Enhanced address cleansing further with latitude-longitude conversion for addressless transactions. Expanded a key report to include VAT visibility. And added support for newer databases like SAP HANA and PostgreSQL.
A pretty comprehensive refresh. And Vertex started pushing folks to upgrade around then.
Yeah, they set retirement dates for older versions, 6, 7, 8, to get everyone onto the latest, most secure, most functional platform.
Mm-hmm.
But innovation didn't stop there, right? What came after V9?
We saw continued progress. O Series 9.0 got certified on SAP's business technology platform, reinforcing that SAP link. Then a really interesting move in early 2022, Vertex O Series Edge.
Edge? What's the idea there?
It's about deploying the tax engine in containers' lightweight portable software packages right near where the transaction actually happens.
Like in a retail store POS system.
Exactly. The benefit is minimizing latency, making calculations super fast, improving availability, and even allowing offline operation if the internet connection flickers. Big deal for retail or high volume environments.
Makes sense. Low latency is key there.
We also saw a technical shift in integrations, moving more towards modern REST APIs from the older SOP ones, like with their Adobe Commerce Connector. And they started adding AI, like the Vertex Copilot, free user assistance, plus, of course, continuous updates to all the tax rules and rates.
So always evolving. Now, a key thing about O Series is its deployment flexibility. It's not just on-prem anymore. Not at all. You've got the whole spectrum. Traditional on-premise, where you manage everything. Cloud options, Vertex can host it on demand, or you can run it on AWS, Oracle Cloud, OCI, Azure, hybrid models combining those, and now O Series Edge. That reported 35% performance boost on OCI for joint Oracle Vertex customers is pretty eye-catching too.
That flexibility is a huge advantage, catering to different IT strategies. And tax-wise, it handles more than just SUTV now.
Oh yeah. Core is still SUT, VAT, consumer use tax, but it's expanded significantly into communications tax, lease tax, even lodging occupancy tax. And crucially, they offer industry-specific content and logic for retail, leasing, communications, hospitality, oil and gas, healthcare. Really deep vertical solutions.
So it grew from a focused tool into this broad, adaptable, global, indirect tax platform. Okay, but while O Series can run in the cloud, Vertex also built a separate born-in-the-cloud product, Vertex Cloud. Why the separate offering?
Right, Vertex Cloud is positioned differently. It's a native multi-tenant SaaS solution. O Series in the cloud is often single-tenant or hosted. Multi-tenant means multiple customers share the underlying infrastructure, which brings certain efficiencies. Vertex built this one from the ground up for SaaS.
Like an apartment building versus a single-family home architecturally?
Yeah.
When did Vertex Cloud really emerge?
Seems like the mid-2010s. Their NetSuite partnership started back in 2013. They were building for Oracle Cloud ERP, S/4HANA Cloud around then. Vertex Cloud VAT compliance launched formally in August 2021, a clear strategic response to SaaS dominating enterprise software.
And the benefits of that native SaaS architecture are
scalability, usually a lower total cost of ownership, faster implementation, and much less IT maintenance burden for the customer because Vertex handles all the updates, including the monthly rate and rule changes. That's a key difference from managing even a cloud-hosted O Series instance.
Sounds appealing, especially for cloud-focused companies. What are its core features and who's the typical user?
Core function is automated SUT and VAT calculation using that same deep Vertex tax content. Key features include exemption certificate management, address validation, reporting, often an optional returns module, configuration options like tax-inclusive pricing. Target audience is broad, but it resonates strongly with mid-market companies, cloud-first businesses, e-commerce retailers. Maybe initially more US-Canada focused on some integrations, but expanding.
And it's built to plug right into that cloud ecosystem.
Exactly. Seamless integration with cloud ERPs like NetSuite, S/4HANA Cloud, Acumatica, Business by Design, e-commerce platforms like Adobe Commerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, CRMs like Salesforce. It aims for that end-to-end tax process entirely within the cloud environment.
Okay, so O Series for complexity, customization, global scale, deployment control. Vertex Cloud for SaaS benefits, speed, standardized needs, cloud integration. How does a company choose?
It really comes down to priorities. Big, complex, global company needing lots of customization. Specific industry modules, maybe wanting on-prem or edge. Likely O Series. Company prioritizing speed, lower upfront cost, automatic updates, happy with standard processes, already heavily cloud-based. Vertex Cloud looks very attractive. Sometimes the integration paths might even support connecting to either, so the choice depends on function, complexity, IT strategy, budget. It's a smart dual strategy from Vertex to cover different market needs in the cloud era.
Makes total sense. Now, integration is clearly paramount for any tax engine. How has Vertex tackled connecting to the big ERPs like SAP and Oracle over this long history?
Integration's been absolutely foundational. They've built incredibly deep, long-standing partnerships with the major ERP vendors.
Let's take Oracle over 30 years, you mentioned.
Yeah, it's extensive. Integrations across JD Edwards, World and Enterprise One, PeopleSoft, eBusiness Suite, Oracle Retail, NetSuite, Oracle Cloud ERP. They often achieve Oracle validated integration status, which is a big deal, means robust testing, reliability. They have things like the Vertex Accelerator for Oracle Cloud ERP to make connecting easier, almost push button. And Oracle themselves use Vertex on OCI, apparently seeing big performance gains.
That's quite the validation. What about SAP? Equally strong ties.
Very similar story. Long-term strategic partner, early supporter of SAP Cloud Platform. Integrations cover the Spectrum, ECC, S/4HANA, on-prem and cloud, Commerce Cloud, Ariba, Business by Design. They offer a specific Vertex indirect tax accelerator for SAP ERP S/4HANA. O Series 9.0 is certified on SAP's business technology platform. They even have extra Vertex PlayLS tools for SAP integration. Technically, they've used various SAP methods over the years, user exits, BADIs, CPI adapting as SAP evolved.
So really tied with the big two. But today, tax isn't just triggered by the ERP, right? What about connecting to commerce platforms, CRM, procurement?
You're absolutely right. Business processes are more distributed now. Tax happens at multiple points. So for e-commerce, they integrate with Adobe Commerce, BigCommerce, Shopify, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, marketplaces via partners providing that real-time calculation at checkout. For CRM and billing Salesforce, Zuora ensuring tax is right on quotes, orders, recurring bills. For procurement, integrating with SAP Ariba helps manage consumer use tax on purchases. It reflects that omni-channel reality, embedding tax calculation wherever it's needed.
And the tech behind those integrations has changed too.
Definitely. Early days, L series, early Q, probably more proprietary methods, file transfers, maybe direct database links. O series brought the shift to standardized web services, XML over SOP. More recently, the clear trend is towards REST APIs, seen in things like the Adobe Commerce Connector V5. They also offer API first tools like Vertex Validator and Invoice IQ. Plus, those pre-built certified connectors and accelerators are crucial for simplifying things for customers. And you still have partner connectors helping bridge from legacy systems. It's a clear evolution towards open standards and easier connectivity.
Okay, so all this tech evolution didn't happen in a vacuum. What were the big external forces, technology trends, regulatory changes that really pushed Vertex along this path?
Several huge ones. First is the rise of ERPs themselves. ERPs were great at many things, but complex tax rules, especially US sales tax, weren't their strength. That created the fundamental market need for external engines like Vertex.
Right, the ERP gap.
Exactly. Then cloud computing was transformative. It enabled SaaS like Vertex Cloud, offered flexible deployment for O series on AWS, Azure, OCI, and allowed for easier, more frequent updates. APIs were key to extending reach beyond ERPs to all those other systems, e-commerce, CRM, etc., and building modular tools. Edge computing drove O Series Edge for those specific low latency needs. And now AML is starting to play a role optimizing calculations, powering things like Vertex Copilot, with lots more potential down the road.
So Vertex had to ride those tech waves. What about the regulatory side? Any big bombshells there?
Oh, absolutely. The South Dakota v. Wayfair Supreme Court decision in 2018 was massive. It overturned the old physical presence rule for sales tax and allowed states to tax remote sellers based on economic nexus, basically, how much business they do in a state.
That threw everything up in the air for online sellers, didn't it?
Completely. It massively increased compliance burdens overnight and fueled huge demand for automated solutions. Vertex had to react quickly with updated content and functionality to handle economic nexus tracking and calculations.
A major catalyst. And then just the ongoing complexity of global VAT.
Yep. As companies go global, they hit this wall of varying VAT rules, rates, registration, reporting across countries. That's driven constant enhancement in O Series and the development of Vertex Cloud VAT compliance.
And the latest big wave seems to be e-invoicing and continuous transaction controls, or CTC.
That's a huge global trend, especially in LATAM, Europe, with Vita, Asia Pacific. Governments want real-time or near real-time reporting of transaction data. This requires much more than just calculation-secure data exchange, specific formats like PEPL, digital signatures, integration with government platforms. Vertex has responded with e-invoicing solutions, integrating these CTC requirements and making acquisitions like Taxamo and Ecosio likely bolstered these capabilities significantly. Regulatory shifts are powerful drivers for tax tech adoption.
Okay, so pulling it all together, where does the Vertex portfolio stand today, say early 2025? Got the two main engines, O Series and Vertex Cloud.
That's the core. Vertex Indirect Tax O Series is the flagship enterprise engine, handles the broad range of indirect taxes, SET, VAT, CUT, ComTax, lease tax. Has the super precise tax GIS, optional address cleansing, highly customizable rules, built-in reporting and analytics, the AI Copilot, broad integration, massive global content library, deployable on-prem, cloud, hybrid, or edge. It's really geared towards large, complex, global companies needing customization, handling specialized taxes, or wanting specific deployment control like Edge for retail.
And Vertex Cloud.
That's the native multi-tenant SaaS offering. Focuses primarily on SUTV calculation, leveraging the same core tax content. Features include exemption certificate management, address validation, reporting, optional returns, built for ease of use, speed, lower TCO with Vertex managing updates. Ideal for cloud-first companies, mid-market, standardized needs, tight integration with cloud ERPs, e-commerce, CRM.
So they really cover the spectrum, and there's a whole supporting cast of other modules and services too.
Absolutely. Compliance and reporting tools for returns and e-invoicing, exemption certificate management tools, data management and analytics offerings, API-based tools like Validator and Invoice IQ, dedicated payroll tax solutions, specialized e-commerce and marketplace solutions, plus integration accelerators and professional services for implementation, migration, consulting. It's a comprehensive ecosystem for end-to-end indirect tax management.
It's quite the journey then, from paper manuals to this sophisticated suite of cloud, edge, and supporting solutions. What's the main takeaway from watching Vertex evolve like this?
I think a key insight is how Vertex's evolution really mirrors the bigger story of enterprise software and the relentless push for automation driven by both technology advances and increasing regulatory complexity. They've shown this deep tax expertise, an ability to adapt to massive tech shifts, mainframe to cloud to edge, and a constant focus on integrating tightly with the systems businesses actually use.
It definitely underscores their position as a long-standing leader in this very specialized but critical field. Any final thoughts on what tax tech and maybe Vertex might go next?
We'll almost certainly see more AI and machine learning integrated more deeply. Continued expansion of e-invoicing and CTC capabilities globally is a given. Further adaptation to cloud native and edge architectures, maybe even new solutions for emerging industries or niche tax types. The pace of change in both regulation and technology isn't slowing down, so continuous innovation is going to be essential.
Fascinating stuff. It really makes you think how the evolution of something specific like tax technology reflects these huge trends in enterprise software and the constant need for automation in our complex world. What other innovations might be just around the corner to transform tax compliance even further? Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for diving deep with us today.